Getting hyped for a video game usually always ends up in one way. With disappointment. We've seen this time and time again with games like Cyberpunk, The Last of Us Part 2, No Man's Sky, Anthem, and most recently, The Day Before. However, sometimes there are those couple games that actually manage to live up to said hype, and just 3 weeks ago, blackmythwukong did exactly that, as is proven by its record-breaking achievement of having the highest concurrent player count for a single-player title in Steam's history, and the game selling 10 million copies in 3 days, with none of those being physical, by the way, as there is no physical release for the game. Which makes it even fucking crazier. But what made blackmythwukong so special? Like, how is this game, which started with 7 people at Game Science, already on the way to outpacing games like Elden Ring? This is how blackmythwukong did what others failed to do. Now, it's no secret that a lot of the biggest gaming companies out there have lost a lot of touch in the past couple of years, as they started hiring people who see how much success a game like Fortnite has had and think, well, I guess that's what everybody wants. Single player games are now a thing of the past. Which does come with its own pros and cons. A con being that said gaming companies who used to make some of the most memorable experiences choosing to focus on live service titles leaves a lot of the classic IPs that we've come to love in the dirt. However, there are also pros, with one being that the shift of focus to live service games allows for the spotlight to shine on smaller developers, like Game Science, which really is one of the main reasons as to why blackmythwukong outsold so many AAA titles this year, because they just met a certain demand that a lot of bigger companies aren't willing to supply. I mean, let's look at the AAA games that came out alongside blackmythwukong. Star Wars Outlaws, Concurrent. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we are still getting a lot of great single-player titles. Last year we got Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3, Alan Wake 2. This year we got Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy Rebirth, which are all doing great. It's just that these games already take extremely long to make. And with everybody focusing on the live service model, these games are just becoming even more of a rare commodity. Now, it's not just the fact that blackmythwukong isn't a live service game, but it's also the fact that it's just a really good fucking game. Which is even more impressive considering that Game Science's last game was this.
What the fuck is happening? Is that a dragon?
Visually, this game is fucking beautiful, fully utilizing Unreal Engine 5 with a very unique art direction. It stands as one of the most impressive looking titles of this year, especially since it's paired with so much creativity, whether it's in the form of character designs, gameplay elements, or animated cutscenes. I mean, this game is just so well made and is something you really wouldn't expect from a developer as big as Game Science. Now, complementing the visuals is also, of course, a great soundtrack that matches moments in the game perfectly. Like when this gate opens, the music just goes. Fight this guy and the music goes. Fucking music video going like this. They did not have to go this hard. What? Although I gotta say that while the visuals are extremely beautiful, I did face some challenges when it came to exploration. Granted, I think that it's just because of the amount of open world games I played, which at this point probably have fried my brain. But there are certain areas you'd think you could explore that are blocked by invisible walls, and other areas you'd expect to be blocked that are not, if that makes sense. Was it a bit confusing? For me personally, yes. Minor critique, the game overall is still extremely beautiful. However, visuals, as you may know, are just half the story. As the game shines the most in its combat, the boss fights specifically, which are the embodiment of variety. Giant bears, giant frogs, giant tigers, giant fucking rock monsters, whatever the fuck this is. If that's a lack of inclusion and diversity, I don't know what the fuck is not. Now you're probably saying something like, Josh, please don't spoil the game for me. And I'm just gonna take a page out of Donkey's book and say I can. These bosses cannot be spoiled because the number of bosses you face do not end. If you look up all blackmythwukong bosses, 6-hour videos pop up. What the fuck? Which is really funny to see, actually, considering how many AAA studios actually struggle with enemy variety. God of War 2018, a game that gets compared to blackmythwukong a lot, is a great example. Probably one of my favorite games of all time, but fighting the same troll boss for the 50th fucking time, by the end, got really fucking repetitive, I'm not gonna lie. And I think that variety for a game like this is extremely important, because usually the more you go on, the more stagnant an experience can get. Which actually brings me to my next point. See, one of the things that frustrated me about blackmythwukong is that it seems like they spent 90% of their development time on bosses and about 10% on the actual combat. I mean, I like the gameplay, and much like God of War, you will also have your abilities like cloning yourself, stasis from Breath of the Wild, etc. However, unlike God of War, which kept the combat fresh by allowing you to perform different combos, throw your axe, switch between different weapons, Black Myth Wukong's combat is very limited to you pressing 1 or 2 buttons, performing the same combos over and over again. Is this a bad thing? Yes, because the game does have the potential to get stale for certain players. And for a game that puts so much emphasis in fighting, I really expected a more complex combat system. Now, at the end of the day, this is still one of those things that I can excuse, because again, what Game Science managed to achieve with Black Myth Wukong is nothing short of amazing. Ubisoft, take notes! Black Myth Wukong isn't just a game, it's a reminder that players still crave single-player experiences that don't rely on gimmicks or live service models. This game has shown that passion and creativity can still triumph in an industry dominated by formulaic AAA releases. And that is exactly how Black Myth Wukong outdid a lot of AAA titles this year. It delivered an experience that resonated with millions of players worldwide and is a wake-up call, which honestly, after so many fucking wake-up calls, you'd think that they'd actually finally wake the fuck up. I mean, if Game Science managed to achieve this much with their first major titles, imagine what the future holds. I don't know why I started doing this. I'm fucking turning Italian. I think it's the shirt. It doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel, but it's just an overall great gaming experience. I give Black Myth Wukong a Game of the Year out of 5. Yes, even with all the hit pieces the media tried to make on this while giving Star Wars Outlaws and Concord 7 out of 10s. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, but before you go, let me ask you, are you experiencing a deficiency in direct contact with grass? People, perhaps you just don't go outside enough, which ends up contributing to the overall decline in your mental health. Well, now you can accelerate that decline by joining my Discord server, a place where you get reminded daily that your life is meaningless, get quoted for the dumbest fucking things, learn how to count. Yes, we have a counting channel where we just count. But most importantly, it's a place where conversations can range from wholesome to... So join now, link in the description, and remember our motto, it won't cost you money, only brain cells.